Hi, this is Tisch, Aitken, and hold your horses, because the cosmic Santa Claus of the Zodiac, Jupiter, the luckiest and largest planet of the Zodiac, is going to enter the Cardinal water sign of Cancer on Monday, June 9th. But let me give you a prep up for the weekend leading up to this, because this is big shifts for all of us, and we have a lot else going on. If you include Pluto at the end of last year, by early mid-July, 5 outer planets will have changed signs, and that's a huge deal and makes the astrology all the bigger for this year and the time we're in. So right now we've got, let's see, so we did just have Saturn enter the Cardinal fire sign of Aries. It's at the very first sign of the Zodiac, at the first degree, a degree known as the world point, new beginnings, also the sign of self. Saturn will be in Aries through September 1st. It's traveling pretty closely along with Neptune, which represents the dream. Saturn is how we anchor things, how we build and structure. It's the planet of responsibility and accountability. Neptune is what you imagine, really diving into, plunging into your imagination. Neptune rules the ocean. It is also the higher octave of Venus, which incidentally, I should say, Venus is now newly in the sign of Taurus. That is very good news. Venus is in its domicile, meaning it's in the sign it rules. It's in its home sign. It's like Venus went home, and it was in a long journey on the road, a business trip that had a lot of delays and cancellations and rescheduling and then budgeting issues, but ultimately you got home, and Venus entered Taurus last night at 9:43 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and early this morning at 12:43 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and Venus will remain in Taurus through July 4th. So this is really good news. And if you want to think of it, through early evening on Sunday, we have Mercury in its home sign of Gemini up until then, and we've got Venus in its home sign. The next couple of days, the moon in Scorpio will be making tough aspects, but this is a good time to work on, and we're also prepping up for Mercury's changing signs too, and that will be happening too. That's a personal planet, but Jupiter changing signs, that's the big news. The cosmic Santa Claus is entering not its home sign, it's entering its exaltation, which means it's like if you have a summer home, that's a home away from home. You love it there, you're by the ocean. Think of Jupiter in Cancer. You're having pineapples by the pineapple, cut pineapple, sliced pineapple, I don't know, something delicious and summery, and you're at your home by the ocean or by a lake, because it's cardinal water. Let's make it water. Let's make it pretty. And it's really warm and beautiful, and you have a lovely garden there, and you have a lot of friends and family that visit, because Cancer represents family. So this will be a lot of focus for all of us on ensuring more security in our lives, but also abundance and opportunity. Jupiter is very fertile in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is the mother of the Zodiac. And so, whereas Aries is the infant of the Zodiac, the sign of new beginnings, this represents your foundation, your security, your real estate, how you feel at home and where you feel at home. And so Jupiter in Cancer is definitely, it's that place you go once a year that you love to visit. You know all the staff, and it's gorgeous there, and that's probably in an exotic place, let's say by the beach, or again your summer home, or maybe it's a friend, a really good friend you visit every summer, and you guys have a blast and you feel it. Sometimes when you visit somebody's place, you don't feel comfortable. Here you feel at home. You don't feel weird about, you feel comfortable. And so this is lovely. And we've got Venus in its dignity at home through July 4th. We've got Jupiter about to enter its home. And we have, let's see, Mercury changing signs on Sunday. So today it's forming what's known as a sextile to Chiron, the wounded healer. And this is a good aspect for, focusing on healing, but with a facility to it. It's not just difficult. It's not just, really having to do the shadow work that the moon in Scorpio will provide. This is has more of an ease to it. And this will perfect at 7:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But that energy is surrounding us now. And yesterday, Mercury made a helpful aspect to Mars. And Mars rules Aries in modern astrology and Scorpio in ancient astrology. And all the points in Aries right now, there's a lot of cardinal fire. So as inspired as that can be, bear in mind it can be overly reactive, impulsive, and acts without thinking. And that's something we all want to be conscious of. Saturn and Aries, don't act in haste, because Saturn really is thinking of what's working, what's not. It's the reality planet. So that's our test with Saturn and Aries, to definitely initiate new things in our lives, but also to think with caution, to not jump in. And we've got on Sunday, we've got, let's see, Mercury entering the cardinal water sign of Cancer just the day before Jupiter does. But Mercury is going to meet up with Jupiter in the sky before it changes signs. And that is, again, at 4:12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday. And Mercury is moving very quickly. So Mercury is going to enter Cancer at 6:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So just a few hours later, or a couple of hours later, really. And so, but that Mercury-Jupiter energy is surrounding the day. And, we have the moon in Scorpio. The moon does enter Scorpio this evening. This is, what is today? June 7th, it must be. And so it's June 7th. And let's see, I have to remind myself, it is June 7th. And no, it's June 6th. Yes, it's June 6th. And so so it's June 6th. So the moon is in Libra right now. It's going to go void at 9:04 p.m. with a beautiful trine to Jupiter, which is about to change signs. And the moon has been in Libra, which is an air sign, trining Jupiter, giving optimism. Then the moon, dives into Scorpio at 10:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where it will be through Monday morning. And this is doing more of the shadow work. The moon is in its fall position in Scorpio, but it's the cosmic compost. Scorpio is the cosmic eliminator of the zodiac, getting rid of the emotional clutter that's keeping you from being happy. The moon rules the sign of Cancer, where Jupiter is about to jump into. It's jumping into the ocean with joy, because it's about to be at its second home, and it's psyched. And so the moon is diving into Scorpio, saying, let's get rid of this, let's focus on this. But we've got Mercury in harmony with Chiron, the wounded healer, saying, I can be optimistic about this right now. Mercury is still in its home sign of Gemini a little while longer, giving me options and choices and ideas of how I can heal. And then we've got Mercury entering the sign of Cancer on June 8th, which is Sunday, at 6:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Again, Mercury is moving fast. It's going to retrograde in July, but right now it's moving rapidly. It leaves its home sign of Gemini and enters the cardinal water sign of Cancer. not much before Jupiter enters the cardinal water sign of Cancer. And it will be there a far briefer time. It'll only be there through June 26th. And then it goes ahead and enters Leo, where it's going to retrograde on July 18th. But we'll get to that another time. So, because the Gemini energy's got me all over the place. And the Aries energy, too. I'm feeling charged up. I want to get it all done. But I'm kind of almost looking forward to Mercury entering Cancer, and even now Venus in Taurus. Slow down, smell the flowers. Venus in Taurus is in its home sign. This is very fertile energy too. So we've got Venus and Jupiter in beautiful placement, really, once Jupiter enters on Monday through July 4th. Jupiter will be in Cancer from June 9th rather, through June 30th of next year. So that's a little over a year, and that's really beautiful, abundant, nurturing energy. That's also nurturing the garden and what you're trying to create and grow in your life. Jupiter grows things. But Venus and Taurus also, this is a great time for planting your garden. Taurus is connected with nature and Mother Earth. This is about what makes you feel beautiful, whether it's getting new clothes or getting a new hairstyle or getting, getting a facial, going to listen to great music, going to a concert, the arts. This is about luxury. This is about your possessions. This is also taking your time not only to smell the roses, but to evaluate and really focus on what's of value. Venus was retrograde this year. Boy, was that tough, because when it retrograded, it initially retrograded in Aries, which it entered on February 4th. So we had Venus on and off in Aries from February 4th up until late last night or early this morning, depending on where you live. That's a long time. It then, it retrograded in Aries on March 1st at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries, dipped back into Pisces on March 29th, stationed direct on April 12th, at March 29th, not February 29th, March 29th. And then it stationed direct on April 12th at 24 degrees and 38 minutes in Pisces. Blah, blah, blah. It basically, it was going back and forth. It got squashed by Venus, and Neptune can be creative, can also make you feel like, oh my God, this is not realistic, I'm getting duped, or I feel very creative, but I can't contain it. Well, now we've got Venus in a sign that takes its time, that focuses on pleasure and beauty and nature and things of value, but it also is grounded. It's an earth sign, and this is grounding us, and it's very abundant energy. This is very creative energy. Mercury in Cancer will also bring a very feminine energy, because earth and water are the feminine signs, and we've got a lot of masculine energy right now with 4 points in Cardinal fire, and Neptune in Aries is already, which I've talked about in other videos, kind of converging the ideas of feminine and masculine and how we use those energies, because that's concurring with Eris, which is Mars's sister. She doesn't seem very feminine, and she's always causing some strife to wake you up and get things going and make you look at things that matter, but she also causes some trouble. She's very rebellious. And then Chiron, the wounded healer, has been very close to Eris and is meeting 3 times in total. So there's that very warrior feminine that's being pronounced in the Zodiac with strong Eris energy. Venus met up with Eris last week, and obviously Chiron and Eris met up together, and then again they're going to meet up together 2 more times, again October 9th, and next year a 3rd time. So that Eris which is like Aries energy because she's Mars' sister, is pronounced. But it's also, I think, in the backdrop of, because she felt shunned, she was shunned. And so we've got Saturn and Aries, where you yourself may feel shunned. Maybe you lost your job or your career in the last few years with what's going on. Maybe you feel you don't feel confident with all these evolving changes with Pluto and Aquarius, which is fast, fixed, rapid change. It is a fixed sign, but it's a sign that's ruled by Uranus. That's the modern ruler. And that gets things going very quickly, and it shakes things up and wakes things up. It's kind of like the energy of eclipses, which can bring shocking events, but instant change that changes your life in a flash, but also changes your destiny or gets you out of a difficult situation in a flash, which can be disruptive at the time, but for your benefit. So that's something to think of. But now we're getting to the fact that aside from that strong feminine energy converging with now all the planets in masculine signs as well, we have the idea that 5 planets changing signs is huge, okay? And then we've got Mercury entering Cancer, moving quickly. We've got the big drum roll, the big event coming up is June 9th. Jupiter enters the sign it loves to be in. And that will happen on June 9th at 5:02 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And because Jupiter is entering a cardinal sign, it's going to clash with both Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which are both cardinal signs. Well, they're both in Aries, which is cardinal fire. And so we've got also, and that buildup happens. So Jupiter's going to square Saturn on June 15th. We're already feeling the buildup now on Friday. We're feeling that even though Jupiter hasn't changed signs, they're getting closer together, definitely. And then Saturn will also square Neptune. And so that also, Jupiter will square Neptune, rather. So Saturn is the reality planet and Neptune is the dream, and both are doing that dance this summer, and then that, separates later in the fall and comes together exactly next February. So we're focusing on converging the good and what we're trying to build, but also dissolving things that are keeping us from our dream. And I think that's why the moon's in Scorpio this weekend too, as of 10:23 tonight, because that's, focusing on what no longer serves you. And again, you want to really manifest. All of us are manifestors. Some have it more pronounced in their charts than others. But each of us, if we think of things in a Saturnian lens, that can make us very disciplined. That's a good thing. And structured in what we're trying to achieve. But it also can be like, oh, why should I do this? Saturn and Aries. Well, I don't have enough knowledge. I've been studying this a long time, but I really haven't, done this in this way before, and I'm just really exhausted. Now's not the time. I have imposter syndrome. I don't measure up to these people. I haven't been doing enough. Well, you're never going to feel good enough, or you're going to fulfill that prophecy. And now with Jupiter in Cancer really working with that very abundant energy. Think of the ocean is so abundant, and even though Neptune rules the ocean, I do think of Jupiter in Cancer, because Cancer is summer season. When people are going to the beach now, they're going to their lake houses, they're going to their summer houses by, wherever they live, whatever ocean it is. So that to me also, having, ice cream on the boardwalk, whatever it is, having summer picnics, having lemonade, enjoying lemonade with Jupiter in Cancer. Venus and Taurus, taking the time to sit down and just have a glass of lemonade without any other goal for that moment, although there's very goal-oriented energy. And I think with Saturn in Aries for a few months, it's in its fall position, but it's an action-oriented sign, This time, Neptune is informing Saturn. So in contrast to the mid-late 90s, again, Saturn was in Aries from 1996, April 7th of 1996, on and off through February 28th of 1999. This time, Neptune will remain in Aries the entire time that Saturn is in Aries. So Neptune is saying, soften up, Saturn. Don't be so tough on yourself, Saturn in Aries. You are better than you think. You have been doing the work. You've been working hard to build the dream with Saturn in Pisces. So knock that out, knock that off, and really focus on take the micro steps and the macro steps this summer on what you're trying to achieve. So we've got that going on, but on the day that Jupiter enters Cancer on the 9th, there are quite a few things going on. So the moon will enter the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius, which is a lovely placement of the moon because Jupiter, which is changing signs that day, is the ruler of the sign of Sagittarius in modern astrology. It rules Pisces in ancient astrology, and it's exalted in Cancer. So the moon enters Sag, and for the most part it makes excellent aspects. It does make a couple of difficult, but the good far outweigh those and are very inspiring. And the moon in Sag, people that have it laugh from the heart. They are optimistic and they see the glass as half full, which is helpful because early that day Mercury squares Saturn, the reality planet, and makes you think like, oh God, this isn't going to work out. I don't know if I can do this. I haven't done enough work. I feel overwhelmed. But then, okay, so what do you need to improve? Do you need to give yourself a little more time to achieve that project? Because with Neptune and Saturn and Aries, we can think like we have to do everything immediately, and that's not the case. We want to take our time to do it right, okay? But so that's going on. And then later that day, we have another reality type of aspect, more of one that is what this weekend is about, is eliminating what no longer serves us. We've got Venus in Taurus squaring Pluto at 1:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That can be a triangle of sorts. Maybe there's a conflict at work with other people and some people are siding with others. Could be a love triangle, but it could also just be you're eliminating things that are keeping you from enjoying Venus and Taurus, and also the bigger cycle, this next year cycle of Jupiter in Cancer, which is saying you can have what you hope for, you can magnetize this, and Saturn and Neptune are actually building a new dream in a sign of new beginnings, and it's about you also. It's the collective, but it's also you yourself. Aries is the sign of self. So not enough about us, more about you. That would be the slogan with Aries. But, usually enough about me, now about you. Enough about you, now about me. But, no, that would be the slogan, actually, really, if we think about it. That would be the Aries saying that. Now, enough about you, now about me. But anyway, this is focusing on how you can build yourself. And, we've got the reality check. We've got the what do I need to eliminate? I know some things are challenging. A lot of people have been struggling financially. Well, Venus was in its detriment in the sign of Aries a good portion of this year. And for the entire month of Aries, it was being straddled and strangled really by Saturn. It was really getting tough energy. It wasn't getting any space. It felt very stifled by Saturn, and that was when the stock market was having a lot of challenges. And I will admit, again, we're going to have a little bit we're going to have a tough month this month, the launching month of Jupiter in Cancer. But later in the summer, as we then now will have Uranus and Gemini, Pluto and Uranus are going to form a trine, which is very innovative and inspiring and helpful. And they're going to also be working in harmony with Neptune in Aries, and that's beautiful, and Saturn too. But, this is, right now we've got Jupiter squaring Saturn. Well, that can be tough on the economy. Jupiter is expansion, Saturn is contraction. Jupiter is abundance and opportunity. Saturn is getting fired. Saturn is getting sent to detention. Saturn is, taking a time out. And so we have to figure out, again, there could be some, that's going to be a big date, and we'll talk a little more of the Jupiter-Saturn square. But, Mercury squaring Neptune also happens that day. And it's going to happen at, when is it happening? It happens at, it's 6:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And that is going to be after Jupiter enters Cancer. Well, that to me, is, again, that can be an aspect of disappointment, delusion, not seeing things clearly, deception, maybe somebody's not being straightforward in their communications. So if something's too good to be true, it definitely is, although you've got that reality check with Mercury Saturn that day saying, even in this month, we've got Jupiter squaring Saturn and then Jupiter squaring Neptune. Well, Jupiter Saturn, this is 5 years after Jupiter and Saturn convened, which they do every 20 years on an even year cycle. They met up on December 20th of 2020 at 0 degrees of Aquarius and initiated a new 400-year story, because that was when they changed elements. They went from Taurus to, they went from Earth to air. The last time they met up was May 28th of 2000. They met up at 23 degrees of Taurus, and now they met up recently, 5 years ago, at 0 degrees of Aquarius, the very first degree of the sign of the future, and now in an air sign. And every 20 years, for the next 400 years, they're going to meet up in the element of air. And now we've got the 5-year mark where they're squaring one another, and in another 5 years, in 2030, they will oppose each other. So there's also a turning point with this. But we're figuring out what we've been working with. But this is this will be the third of these Jupiter-Saturn squares, because we had our very first one on August 19th. And that was the first day of the Democratic Convention. That was the day of the full moon in Aquarius. We had the second square on December 24th of 2024. That was on Christmas Eve. And this is the third and final square on June 15th that we're building up to. And then 3 days later, Jupiter squares Neptune. And that is a manifesting energy. Some things may get dissolved, but a very creative energy. So we've got Jupiter in Cancer. Start manifesting. I think it's good that Mercury is, entering the sign of Cancer the day before. They will not meet up in the sign of Cancer because they meet up in Gemini on Sunday the 8th. They meet up at the last degree of Gemini, which is an anaretic degree. It's the last degree of a sign. But that's encapsulating this past year of Jupiter in Gemini, which is in its detriment, but it expands wherever it is. And now it's entering its exaltation, abundance, opportunity, expansion. And in another way, we're getting some reality checks, growing, setbacks, growing, layoffs, all of this with the Jupiter-Saturn energy and Jupiter-Neptune. But this is prepping us up for Jupiter in Cancer, which is lovely. And then remember, we've got one other planet changing signs this year. Uranus, the great awakener, which takes 84 years to orbit, will enter Gemini from July 7th through November 6th. And this will be very good energy because Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, which is a fellow air sign. And Uranus and Gemini will bring a lot of revolutionary progress with, I think, with medical and technological advancement, definitely with travel and transportation, which is struggling a lot, both with air travel, but also with more local Gemini travel, like bus travel. Like the fact that I had a 2-hour delay on a bus and nobody to confront on Monday. Not that I was going to confront somebody, but I couldn't really ask anybody. I had to wait 2 hours for a bus in Philadelphia to go to New York. That's a long time to be late for a bus and not have a bus station. We were kind of floating around. So Uranus and Gemini will bring, I think, a lot of breakthroughs with travel, but also with communication, because Mercury is communication and rules the sign of Gemini. And I think medical advancement, I have felt that this is going to bring a lot of anti-aging advancement as well, because Gemini is such a youthful sign. That's another thing I think will be happening. And the last thing I'll say is I just saw that they came up with something new with dealing with cancer, with treatments for cancer at Johns Hopkins, that they have a way of having with proteins that the cells themselves form something like a likening chemotherapy, but not attacking the healthy cells, but once it grows within the cancerous cells, that then it goes and attacks that. So I'm not describing it well, but I think it makes sense, and it's showing you a whole new way to treat cancer, which we know chemo and radiation can also be very tough on healthy cells. So listen, good luck, take care. There's a lot at play. Venus square Pluto, well, that could be breakups on Monday. We've got Mercury square Saturn, the reality check. Mercury square Neptune could dissolve things, but work on what's real, focus on what you can do, and know you're manifesting a whole new dream.